This is a timber hitch, which is a knot we've inherited from forestry. It's a fantastic, easy to untie, pretty secure knot. Like several of the knots we've shown, it has a bit of an issue in as much as it's directional. You can see it's secured there, it's binding very well there, it's binding well there, but if I pull it in this direction, it just simply unwraps around the stem. So it's going to be a bit difficult to show you because you can't see all the way around the stem, but to tie a timber hitch, I pass the rope around the object, I bend it back over the standing part of the line, and now I'm just going to go along taking turns around the part of the rope that has been taken around the object. So that's 3 times around the rope, 4, I'll go 1 extra one, 5, and then I'll get that dressed up nicely. Pull that tight, get that dressed in. So that's a timber hitch. There's a minimum of 4 turns around the rope. But what's just as important is making sure 2 other things. One is that your turns go at least 180 degrees around the object. So even on a big tree, you want to make sure that your last turn is opposite where the standing part of the rope comes into the knot. And the other thing that's really important is making sure that the rope, all of those turns are in contact with the trunk. So this is a nice, smooth, round log. But if you imagine a big spreading tree with lots of buttress roots, we'd have a potential issue that each of our turns, where the working end of the rope ought to be sitting against the log and be pinched in by the force of the knot, we'd have an issue that those turns would be in space around the buttresses, and as we loaded it, there's nothing stopping the rope unraveling. So a few things you could do, if you were concerned about that unraveling, you know, we could chuck a stopper knot in there at the tail. So long as there's contact here, that's going to stop the working end of the rope coming out from under that part of the rope there. But it's not going to help much if we've got that issue where the turns are sitting in space clear of the trunk on the buttresses. So very important, minimum 4 turns, minimum 4 wraps, and a minimum 180 degrees around the trunk before you pull it tight. And then when you've done that, just make sure that it's in contact at all those different points where you've turned it around the rope. And again, yes, when you're tying it, make sure that the direction you're going to load it in isn't one where it's going to unwrap. So this is great, pulling it that way. So if we were pulling a tree over, we'd be pulling it that way. If we're installing a rigging block or hardware, we'd be pulling it that way, that would be fine. The only issue would be if we install it that way, it's just going to unwrap. So not a great knot to use for dynamic rigging. So not a great knot to attach to a branch if we were cutting this off, and not a great knot for life support either. In fact, maybe don't use this one for life support at all. Just that risk that as you're moving around a tree, you might be loading it in different directions, and before you know it, it's started to unwrap. But other than that, a fantastic knot, timber hitch.